minutes starting at howdy.
Howdy, Ags. Howdy. Welcome to the meeting. We'll get rolling. We got a long presentation, but we're only going to do. First off, the Guild has 41 sponsors, authors, and 5 sponsors, which is pretty historic. Next Steve.
Just a quick overview. Currently in 9 states, illegal aliens can attend the university and pay in-state tuition. Texas was the first state that actually gave them this benefit in 2001, and 8 other states have followed. Currently in 2 states, I think Georgia and 1 other, they have made it to where they cannot attend the university and receive this benefit. And then all the other states just kind of don't really have a law on it except for the 96 federal law. Next slide. I'll go through this kind of quick. There are 3 requirements that they do have to meet to get this in-state tuition. The first requirement is that they live in Texas for at least 3 years prior to graduation. They have to reside in Texas a full year prior to enrollment in the institution of higher education, and they have to provide an affidavit stating that they intend to apply for permanent residency when eligible to do so. And that affidavit does state all those things. It has to be notarized, and it also states that they have to apply for citizenship. Unfortunately, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board does not follow up on how many of those actually do apply for citizenship, or if they do apply, how many are granted citizenship, because we have tried to get those numbers, but they're not, we can't get those. Texas House Bill 1403, as I mentioned earlier, in 2001, there was less than 100 illegal aliens attending all universities in Texas. Since implementation of that bill, which has said that they can attend this university and state tuition, we now have over 11,000 illegal aliens attending universities. And I said in Texas, and that's constantly increasing. And as I was mentioning earlier, they don't follow up on those to see which ones are actually granted citizenship and which ones are actually now allowed to work in the U.S.
Alright, so there's a federal law in the books that actually says that if any illegal alien receives a higher education benefit, any U.S. citizen, regardless of where they live in the United States, should also be eligible for this benefit. So basically, there should be no, there should be no out-of-state tuition if we're going to give in-state tuition to illegal aliens. Next slide. Alright, so this is a very, very interesting map, and this tells us where we're at right now. The orange right here, these are the 2 states, Texas and New Mexico, the 2 states in the union that give in-state tuition and financial aid to legal aliens. You can see there's 3 states over here, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, who actually have banned admission all together of legal aliens. So these are the 2 extremes, and you have various states in between. But as you can see, we're only 2 states, and Texas was the first, by the way, that started this, that have this current policy. If we look at the rest of our nation, they don't have policies such as this. Next slide. Out-of-state students must pay $16,000 per year to attend Texas A&M. $16,000 more just because they are out of state. They're still U.S. citizens, but they're paying more. As you can see, it's quite an income gap. And it's hard for them to afford school too. And are they, I guess, the question of this is why are we putting our own citizens below people who aren't yet citizens of the country? Next slide. This is just estimated. Alright, so this is key right here. 62% of the education and general operating revenue comes from state appropriations, comes from the state taxpayer. So we're talking about a significant budget of our education. Next slide. Steven, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, the effects on Aggies. What this bill does not affect is any out-of-state residents, and they would still have to pay the out-of-state tuition. Law-abiding foreign students, this is not against international students, guys. I know there's been a lot of things brought up, this is going to make students not want to come to A&M. I'm not saying any students cannot come to this university. We love all students coming to university. This is simply against those that come here illegally and then they get into the university by paying in-state tuition. When those students are applying internationally, they start to pay the out-of-state tuition rate, which is much higher. Financial aid, they do receive financial aid, about $33 million through 2004-2008. The Corps of Cadets, Justin, you know more about that than I do with the Corps of Cadets.
I don't know much about that.
I know that you get scholarships.
Well, essentially, this bill does not say that you cannot come to Texas A&M. It does not say that you can't be a member of the Corps. It doesn't say you can't receive financial aid. It simply says the definition of who pays in-state tuition and who does not should follow federal law.
Let's jump to the next slide. So real quick, there's still ways to get in-state tuition if you're not a legal citizen. academic scholarships over $1,000, a big way, and a lot of people get these. These aren't hard to get. Next slide. I believe we have a graph right here. 72% of out-of-state Americans receive this waiver. So this isn't like, wow, only a few people get this. 72% of people get these waivers. And even if this bill passed and we said there would be no automatic in-state tuition, there's still in-state tuition like every other out-of-state American is. So we're basically leveling the playing field and giving citizens the same kind of chances. So illegal aliens apply along with American citizens for this waiver, which 72% of people get. Next slide. All right, Steven?
Okay, the cost, as I mentioned earlier, between 2004 and 2008, Texas awarded about $33.6 million in financial aid to illegal students. Well, I believe from the chart you showed earlier, only one other state does afford them financial aid, and that is a direct cost to Texas taxpayers. In 2004, illegal aliens classified as residents cost Texas looks like over $9 million.
So this is key right here. Legal aliens cannot work legal in the United States or Texas once they graduate. And Allison's going to touch about how this relates to what we just heard from our special presentation.
We just learned that public school is a public service. When we become educated, we serve the state of Texas and our country. So if you can't do that, then it is wrong to take public funds if you're not going to serve the public.
So this bill would express a desire to enforce the existing laws. Right now, Texas policy rewards criminal behavior of being in the United States illegally. This also brings us in, eliminating the Texas policy would bring us into consistency with current federal law that says if you come to this country illegally, you're really not supposed to be here, and you shouldn't be getting benefits that the citizens pay into. And this also increases fairness to out-of-state military and law-abiding foreign students. Next slide. So diversity was brought up earlier. So this is an interesting data chart right here. 5% of our students are out-of-state Americans. They're one of the lowest representative groups on this country. 13% of our population is Hispanic. There's been concerns that, this bill targets Hispanic people. But we really want to talk about who's oppressed and who's a minority on campus. It's the out-of-state students who are Americans. Next slide. As you can see in this map, there's not much of them. In South Dakota, for instance, 6 students came. I know we have some people from Ohio with us. There's about 57 other of y'all at this university. But there's a lot of different cultures. I like to travel around the United States, and it's a diverse country. It is amazing what you're running into this country. We really don't see this here.
2 minutes.
We're more represented by international students and other people in our country who are really diverse. Next slide. All right, fairness. How is this fair to non-citizens following the law? There's over 1,100 out-of-country students who are attending this university right now. People who aren't citizens and said, I'm going to come in the right way, pay out-of-state tuition, and come to this university. A lot of them do that. There's also 124 students from Mexico that are here right now, paying out-of-state, out-of-country tuition, and here legally. Next slide. By the numbers. So this is kind of student opinion. This is an interesting metric here. The Facebook groups you can see, the group for this bill has about 500 more people than the other Facebook groups. Next slide. Now what people are saying, in-state tuition is aimed by the legality of residents and citizenship. Actually, let's just skip it all. Let's go ahead. All right, go. All right, survey. I guess I'll discuss that. So we tried to get a survey.
1 minute.
Okay, we'll set up the Q&A. Someone asked me a question, Matt, about not doing a survey. All right, I'll count on that. All right, conclusion, Steven.
Okay, so, go ahead. Okay, so just to wrap it up really quick, one of the main topics that we're talking about here is it would not work legally in the United States, even if we do educate them, so doesn't really make sense to grant an in-state tuition, which is kind of the whole point behind Texas tuition subsidizing a lot of that cost. Secondly, granting in-state tuition to illegal aliens is awarding unlawful activities. There's a lot of students that come here through our international programs, and they come here legally, but when they sit there back and they watch students that break the law and they get something they didn't get, that makes them wonder, why should I do it the right way when I can be rewarded for doing it the wrong way? And the lastly, one has to go back to their country of origin and stay there to apply and for and be granted permanent residency.
Something that was sent out, something you should know is
Please finish your sentence.
the state law is in conflict with federal law, and the United States Constitution says federal laws should trump state laws.
With that, we'll move into 5 minutes of question and answer. Senator Womack.
Howdy, Mark Womack off campus. When you say cost to taxpayers and other things like that, I assume you're referencing the state of Texas. How do illegal immigrants not fit into the category of taxpayers?
Sure. And then
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, I think the Texas Comptroller did come out with a report that they do pay, I think, around 10% of the benefits that they do receive. I think it was like 500,000 or 500 million to 5 billion. They absolutely do pay property tax and sales tax, as do the students that come here that are from out of state. They don't get any waiver not to pay property or sales tax. Those out-of-state students still have to pay that, but they don't pay in near as much as they're receiving the benefit for. And that difference obviously has to be made up somewhere, and it's being made up by the Texas taxpayers.
And if I can jump in here, the reason we have in-state tuition, it isn't to pay back taxes that people have been paying. Like, that's something a lot of people say, but that doesn't really make sense, because if that were true, then they just wouldn't charge the tax in the first place. What it is it's to provide for the education of people who can go on and work in the state of Texas. It's to bring people from around the world and from around the country in, if they get merit-based scholarships, and they get in-state tuition too. It's to educate people so that they can go on and be part of the economy. The problem with illegal immigrants is that there's no way for them to do that right now. We heard earlier that even though when they get in-state tuition, they're required to sign a pledge to go out for citizenship, there's currently no way for that to be done. So I don't want to say that it's money like that the state is spending, and it's not really the state that's spending it. I'll explain that for another question that I'm sure is going to come up. But it comes from the university spending money on people who cannot go on to work in the state of Texas. And there's probably a better use for that money. Either it is through decreasing tuition or providing scholarships or improving classes.
Sure, and you also have to consider the Texas student who's hardworking, who wants to live and work in Texas, or maybe even the out-of-state American who wants to come to school here to live and work in Texas. That's prevented from getting good quality education that we get here to use those skills to benefit the state of Texas, because spots here at this university are a valuable, are a scarce resource, and not everyone can afford to come from out of state. As we saw, those people are paying taxes while they're here, yet they're still paying the high out-of-state rate. It doesn't make sense.
Can I ask you a point of personal preference?
State your point.
And this has nothing to do with Senator Womack's question, but I just wanted, can we remind the body to save debatable questions for debate and ask only pointed informational questions during this period?
Sustained, seeing as we only have about 2 minutes left in question and answer. With that, Senator Bender.
President Earl Candace, can you just explain one more time, is there any difference between international students who do come here following all the laws? Is there any difference in the tuition costs that they pay compared to an out-of-state student?
I don't believe there is one. If they're graduate students, and a lot of them are,
Essentially, it's not really necessarily in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition. It's more residency or not. They're in the not-sector.
With that, Chair Thornburg.
I'm sorry, international students actually do.
Well, here, sorry.
I'm sorry, but I
Get a senator to say it. Sorry. Chair Thornburg.
Rachel Thornburg, Rules and Regulations. Regardless of whether this bill passes, do you guys agree that the population of Texas A&M is going to continue to increase due to Vision 2020?
Yeah, I think there's definitely more applicants every year than there is that we let in. So I think that that set number that we're going to let in every year, I think we're always going to reach that number. We're going to have to turn away any applicants. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I move to give the MSC President speaking privilege.
There's a motion on the floor to give MSC President Colin Layton speaking privileges. Multiple seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
This would take a 2/3 vote, Madam Speaker.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Division's been called. Will all those in favor please stand? This motion fails, 39 for the 2/3 vote. Well, how many are against? Sorry. All against, please stand. Any abstentions? Yeah. Okay, this motion fails. With that, Senator Davenport.
Senator Davenport, College of Education. Justin, I wanted to ask you a question about the survey.
Thank you, Senator Davenport, for allowing me to answer that question. Madam Speaker, how much time is left in our Q&A?
About 45 seconds.
I'll go ahead and, Madam Speaker, I motion to extend our Q&A by 10 minutes.
Multiple seconds. All those who wish to extend Q&A by 10 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
10 more minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All right, thank you, Senator Davenport. So, survey. I started this because I thought it was important, and I know we talked about this a lot in May, and I think surveys in general are good, because I want to hear what people are talking about. So a while back, it was end of school last spring, I sent out an email to SLS people, and I kind of got some good feedback on what it took, but I also had some negative feedback from people in SBA and stuff like, Justin, you're an audit officer, why are you trying to do this? So that was unfortunate. But anyways, as to Scott, who has more information about what happened this fall? Or I guess, Chris, you're on the bill, would you like to talk about what happened this fall? Great, okay, excellent.
Well, basically, this fall, we were going to compile, and we still are, a master survey, which contains questions regarding the various committees that we can form legislation on. The committees, Student Services and External Affairs, each charge their members to come up with questions. Sometime throughout the semester, I receive questions from them in the form of a Word document or a PDF. I then approached SLS with those, set up meetings with them, actually particularly Ms. Kelly Cox, whom I've been working with. We took those questions, we put them into a format, several emails exchanged between myself and her, until, unfortunately, as late as it was, this last Friday, Chris and I had a meeting for SUSO to finalize all that and put it on the internet for an open survey. I'm very sorry it's taken so long.
Additionally, I would like to say that we've had months and months and months to talk to our own constituents. I don't know how to use an SLS survey, but I do know how to poll my class of students in my senior methods block. I found that every student either was apathetic and didn't have an opinion or didn't know about the issue, or they were very strongly in favor of this bill as well. In my class, it was every person that said they had an opinion either was for this bill or said this bill did not go far enough. That's something you could have done on your own. And additionally, I personally feel that a survey would be ignored by this body in the fact that we had an overwhelming support of or overwhelming opposition to mandatory meal plans, and there was only a difference of 4 senators. So I feel like
and also the absence of a survey doesn't mean that we can go out and do our jobs that we should be doing for every bill. We hardly ever have surveys, so I guess it's kind of a double standard. If you debate against this bill because no survey was done, well, I hope you've abstained on every other bill this fall and will continue to abstain on every other bill. Because really, surveys are good, and on fees and stuff, that's great, and I think it would have been great to have surveyed for this side of time, but we've done important bills all the time without surveys, and what you do, you know what, people voted for you because you're a trustee, 1, but 2, you should be well connected with your constituency by going and talking to people in classes, organizations, and otherwise, so you know what the general consensus is. And also remember, when you're voting, what the general consensus on campus is, not necessarily the general consensus in this room right now.
and read the list of sponsors, please.
Sorry, Senator Scoggins?
Robert Scoggins off campus. In as much as the bill states that in order for students to get in-state tuition, they have to begin the process of applying for citizenship, can you explain how they wouldn't be working legally within the state?
It's not so much in the process, but just in that they will apply for it within the next year or something of that sort. It's not so much that they're already in the process, but they will apply for citizenship. But unfortunately, they never follow up on that. We never know if they actually do apply for citizenship, how many of them do get granted citizenship. Because just because you apply doesn't mean you're granted citizenship. unfortunately, we don't have those numbers because they don't follow up on it.
And what it is, the affidavit you're signing saying, I pledge to go out for citizenship, I pledge to pursue citizenship. But currently, there is no way for an illegal immigrant to become a citizen without first returning to Mexico and entering legally, or wherever they came from. So,
Say an order, everyone. Senator Pena.
Eric Pena, college geoscientist, and I have a question that I would like each of you to answer. And I'll preface it first by saying that a person is not deemed, he's still a juvenile until the age of 18, hasn't committed a federal offense. And so let's say that there is somebody brought over from another country illegally by their parents forcefully, and they go through all the provisions, and they graduate high school early, let's say 16 or 17, and they come to A&M. They're still legal. They're not illegal. What do each of you guys think? I mean, so whenever they turn 18, and it's going to be their sophomore year, maybe if they come in at the age of 16 to A&M, what do each of you think should happen to that person when they turn 18?
Before we start with that, the chair would remind the body not to preface questions unless asking to keep debatable questions out. But
I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and touch on that, even though it's obviously a debatable question. But I'll give my opinion on that better yet. It's just, and that is the argument that's brought up a lot is, it's not really their fault. Their parents brought them here. How is it their fault? And I completely agree. It's not really their fault. I want to go to school in California really bad. My parents raised me in Texas. It's not really my fault. But California's still not going to give me in-state tuition. So just because it's not my fault or the kid's fault, doesn't mean that student should be granted in-state tuition. And it's completely your responsibility once you turn 18 to make your own decisions. There's definitely an emotional feel to what you're talking about, because it's not really their fault. It's not really my fault. We have to step back and look and say, who's really responsible for that? Is it all the tax irresponsible decision, or is it that person and their parents that are responsible for that decision?
That wasn't my question.
Your question was kind of long. I forgot what it said.
It was whenever they turn 16 and they're still here, and this doesn't support alien or illegal aliens actually forbidden. These people are not illegal, but they're still a part of this Senate bill. And so, how do you feel about that? That they're not illegal, but you're still including them.
I'm not actually sure that those individuals wouldn't actually fall under our Senate bill. But at any rate, once they do turn 18, they would not be caught. They would in turn become illegal aliens, and they would be taking a resource away from the state because they cannot work legally in Texas after they graduate. That's just the way it is. It's sad that some people have to grow up against their will in a country that's not where their legal citizenship is. But in the end, it's not my responsibility or the citizen of Texas's responsibility to give basically a forced charity, a forced payment from the government to someone who cannot benefit their state when they graduate because they can't work in our state as a legal alien.
With about 3 minutes left, Senator Aguilar.
Point of information, you stated that Georgia has laws that prevent illegal or undocumented students from attending public schools. As I was informed, there's no laws in Georgia that prevent illegal immigrants or undocumented students to attend public schools, but schools do ask for a social security number. If there's a law, would you state it and please say, explain what it says? And also, in your presentation, you said that out-of-state students are underrepresented 5% to 13%. And since this bill targets Senate bill students, which we already know is less than 1% of the student body population.
State your point.
Is there a question? It's a point of information.
Yes, he's asking a question, but let's also keep it to one question, unless you receive a follow-up.
Did you have different sources that say that 30%, which is the Hispanic student body population, is undocumented students? Because you related it to the out-of-state students.
Okay, well, let me touch on the first question again with Georgia law. Okay, I can show you an article in the Code of Higher Education. I think it's respected enough for these things. The decision in Georgia was by the Board of Regents of the universities, the public universities, that said basically as long as there's U.S. residents who want to come to our schools, we're not going to allow to illegal aliens. I can show you a story and about that if you have questions about that. On the second question, would anyone like to talk about that?
Second question.
Yeah, the Senate bills,
It was at 15%. Okay.
Okay, those comparisons were to show that this is
1
not
minute.
about discrimination and is about treating students equally and eliminating preferential treatment for one group that is not necessarily as big of a minority as other groups are on this issue. Does that answer your question?
With that, Senator Lane.
Okay, why hasn't the federal government, because there is the federal law from 1996, why hasn't Texas complied with that, which would, I guess, essentially make anybody from any state in the nation have in-state tuition? Why hasn't, do y'all know why?
I think it's just a lack of enforcement. Why haven't they actually done it? I'm not sure, but I think it's just a lack of enforcement. Yes, it's purely a lack of enforcement. I can't speak for the federal government, definitely. I would assume a lack of enforcement on the 96 federal.
Madam Speaker, I move for an extension of Q&A by 5 minutes.
There's a motion on the floor to extend Q&A by another 5 minutes. Multiple seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. In the opinion of the chair, that motion fails. Q&A is now expired. We'll now move into a period of debate on this bill. Those wishing to debate for. Senator Wilson.
Tanner Wilson, College of Science. I came in here tonight and for the first hour and a half had not made up my mind. I want everyone in this room to know that I did listen to each and every one of you. And after listening to everything that was said tonight, here's where I am right now. First of all, I got a little story for you, Ags. As far back as 1889, Hispanics have been part of the Aggie family. Cadet Jose Angel Ortiz of Laredo, Texas, is perhaps the first Hispanic graduate of Texas A&M, although another Latino Aggie, Cadet Eden Valdez of Brownsville, scored the first touchdown ever for A&M in a game against Galveston in 1895. Cadet David Rodriguez was a member of the Agricultural Mechanical College of Texas band in the days when band strength was approximately 20. I am sick and tired of this notion that Texas A&M does not have a record of strong Hispanic integration. And if you want to fight that perception, whatever this is nationally, that we don't welcome Hispanics here, I think we should start sharing this message nationally. I think we should start sharing the fact that Hispanics at Texas A&M have over 100 years of recorded integration and have served in prestigious positions in this university. So if we're going to talk about illegal immigration status, please don't make this a racial issue, because I have no doubt that Texas A&M has a strong record of Hispanic integration. Now, second part of my story for you, Ags. 7 Aggies have received the Congressional Medal of Honor, which they received fighting and defending the Constitution of the United States of America, as well as the laws thereof. Additionally, 55 Aggies lost their lives during World War I. Again, defending the Constitution of the United States of America. That's the oath they swore to uphold when they commissioned. Now, why do I share this, Ags? The United States Constitution states in Amendment 14, the first clause, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The United States Constitution declares who is a citizen of the state of Texas, not only of the United States. And according to the U.S. Constitution, which these Aggies have earned medals defending and have died defending, illegal immigrants are not citizens of the state of Texas. And I'm sorry, you know, diversity's great, the Aggie family is great, you know, loyalty is one of our core values. But I'm an American first. And I cannot, in good conscience, vote in a way that would suggest I support violation of the Constitution of the United States of America. Particularly when I consider the sacrifice of those great Aggies that have gone before me, many of whom were indeed Hispanic. So with that, I yield back to the floor.
With that.
I move to amend the legislation.
There's a motion on the floor to amend the legislation, I believe to add the highlighted marks. Is there a second? Multiple seconds. All those in, is there a point of information? I thought I emailed it out this morning. These were the two copies. There was one copy that wasn't highlighted, and then this copy that was highlighted. So all of you should have received that. With that, there are multiple seconds. All those in favor of, say your point.
This is a debatable motion.
Yes. With that, those wishing to debate for these amendments.
Howdy. Howdy. All right, so just to clarify a little bit, I know some of you are probably confused as to why there's two copies of the bill. Here's what happened. It was brought up in the External Affairs Committee meeting. There were some changes that the bill authors wanted to make, but they needed a couple more days because our meeting was limited on time. And the changes that they wanted to make were fairly extensive, so if you look through it, there are multiple yellow marks throughout. So pretty much what I told them as chair was that they could take the bill in the next day or so, make the changes, and resubmit it for the agenda as the committee would go ahead and vote it out. So whether you support or don't support this bill tonight, I hope that you'll agree with me that I told them as chair that they could make such changes before it came back to the floor. So again, and I hope that you'll just support the idea that I gave them the right to do that before it came back. Generally, this is pretty accepted that changes happen between committee time and between the time they come back to the floor. But what happened is we found out that there is a rule where they're not technically supposed to be changed. There's not supposed to be changes incurred from the time it's voted out of the committee to the time it goes back to the floor. So in essence, we're making the formal amendments right here. But these are in essence friendly amendments by the author. So no confusion here. Just vote for it, and then we'll debate the bill after that. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
We have to vote, yeah.
But can we do it before we vote so that everyone...
You want to amend the
Yes.
highlighted marks?
Below, at the bottom, to add Congressman-elect Bill Flores to those who will receive. Oh, there we go. It's already there. Thank you.
Yeah, it's already there. That's why you should read your emails.
I didn't get that email. Didn't get it.
With that, those wishing to debate against this amendment, seeing none, chair deems debate one-sided. There's a motion on the floor for a voice vote to add these amendments. Multiple seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Being the chair, the ayes, you have it. We will move back now to debate. To speak against, Senator Webb.
Senator Webb, Mace Business School. One quick thing. I wish I could craft kind of a nicer speech, but here are some of the highlights. As a senator, I received 8 emails today in support of 6311. I also witnessed 3 or 4 presentations. In contrast, I received 0 emails today in opposition of 6311, but that and that and that and that is pretty convincing. I believe that this particular argument of legal immigration has been brought forward by a very small yet very vocal minority, and I don't think it warrants our time. I myself have spoken with 12%, that's documented, spoken with 12% of my constituency in the Mace Business School. I have letters, I'm sorry, not letters, I have signatures. I've reached far more. I have not spoken to them about this issue. I've spoken to them about budget reductions and budget cuts, because that's really what we should have our minds on. Because you know what? Budget cuts don't just affect you guys, and it doesn't just affect us guys, it affects all of us. So I ask you all as senators, this doesn't matter as near as much. Budget cuts are coming. They are coming. Let's argue about something that actually makes sense for a while. Oh, by the way, we killed 2 birds with 1 stone because people now can find Coldest One at 44. It's amazing. So, leaps and bounds of transparency. Thanks again.
With that, just to remind the body, we are now debating on the bill with the amendment. So this is now the bill we are voting on, and we can take the highlighted marks off just so everyone's clear. Thanks. To speak for, Chair Caperton.
Howdy. Howdy. Okay, so we've heard a lot of conversation presentation tonight on this, and I'll be honest with you, I spent a lot of time doing research on this and many of the other items that are going to be considered before the upcoming Texas legislative session. A lot of what we heard tonight just wasn't really factually true. I'll just tell you up front, because I have spent some time working with other people in SGA on this, but I've also spent time in Austin working with higher education policy analysts and talking to representatives and senators, and I will guarantee you this: we've been told here tonight that this isn't a matter that we should address, that the student senate that we shouldn't for some reason. What I will tell you is this is guaranteed to come up in the upcoming legislative session, and I've been told by policy analysts, by representatives, by senators that they need student opinion in order to act properly on this legislation. So therefore, it is an obligation of this representative body to take some sort of stance one way or another, or at least to have a discussion regarding this. The other thing I'd like to address is we're not telling anyone they can't come to Texas A&M University. We are saying that you will come based on the tuition rate that is set for you per the law. The law has said that if you are a legal residing citizen of the United States, in the state of Texas, you can receive in-state tuition. That obviously changed recently. But as far as getting financial aid to come to A&M, right now, actually, undocumented students can receive financial aid in the forms of loans and grants. So you're not limiting anybody's ability to get financial aid to come here. So what we're saying is, excuse me,
Stay in order.
The point is, we're not telling people you can't come to Texas A&M University. What we're saying is you're going to come and you're going to have to pay a little bit higher rate, like a lot of other out-of-state students do. And with that said, the question doesn't become, can you go to A&M? Are we discriminating against someone? Are we not welcoming someone to A&M? It is clear we've welcomed people of all backgrounds to A&M. What we're saying here is that you may have to consider bearing the burden of taking on loans or applying for a grant or scholarship through the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and maybe bearing a greater burden of debt when you graduate college. Many of us in here have to do that, including myself. There's a lot of students out there. So keep that in mind. There are other students who are receiving out-of-state tuition that are having to bear that burden themselves. And finally, I just want to speak directly to the students here tonight who are against this. I've got to be honest with you. I know that this is seen as a very divisive issue, and that's unfortunate because I'm actually surprised that more of the students here tonight against this don't stand for it, because this is not Student Senate standing against you. This is Student Senate standing for you, because the state and federal governments have failed to act properly to give you an opportunity. They are affording you the opportunity to attend an education, or to attain a higher education, where you can't get a job afterwards. How disappointing is that? I would be upset with my government if I were in that position. They have not worked with you. They have not represented you. You should be standing in Austin, and I would proudly stand with you in Austin or on the steps at the Capitol Hill in Washington and say these students haven't been afforded a fair opportunity to attain citizenship, and the fact is you haven't. So what they're doing is they're putting in this program that kind of gives you a feeling that you're attaining some form of freedom or citizenship or the same opportunities as everybody else, when in fact you're not. It's not fair. And right now we have a system that is clearly unsustainable. It is a small program and it is a small number, but the numbers have increased greatly and are going to continue to over the next few years. The program costs are unsustainable, and I hope that you'll vote against it. Thank you.
With that, to debate against, Senator Liska.
I'm sorry. I meant for the bill. Sorry.
I'd like to share a little history of the bill with everyone this evening. If you can remember back to 2001, that's when this policy of allowing illegal immigrants to get in-state tuition was adopted. Let's fast forward to 2010, April. The Student Senate brings forward a bill about in-state tuition for illegal immigrants. What else was happening in April? What was in the national news? Arizona changing their immigration law. So coincidence? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. Clark mentioned that he heard about there's a possibility this may come up in the Texas legislature, and the Texas legislature meets, correct me if I'm wrong, January of 2011. Right now there are no pending pieces of legislation that deal with this issue. But somehow we thought, well, we should go ahead and make this opinion, even though it's not necessary. No one's asking us for this opinion yet. Normally, when we want to do something for legislative relations, we want to give direction to legislative relations, it's on upcoming legislation, so they can lobby on it. There's no upcoming legislation. how are they supposed to lobby on
Point of
this?
information.
State your point.
In order for us to abide by the timeline that was set out and agreed upon by SGA, was it not clear that this bill had to be, that this bill, if we wanted to oppose, would have to be passed in one of the next couple meetings?
I refer that back to you since you're the external affairs.
Yes, for the timeline. It'll have to be passed in one of the next two meetings.
It's guaranteed to come up? There's been
Guaranteed.
a bill proposed?
It's already been written, it just has to be submitted, and it will be here in mid-November.
Okay, well, leave that as it may. This was introduced when the Arizona bill came up. It's political opinion. Make no mistake about it. This is not driven by genuine student interest. Before April of 2010, did you ever hear anyone saying, man, the problem with A&M is all these illegal immigrants getting in-state tuition? No, like Preston West brought up, we're concerned about budget cuts. I mean, people can't find a place to park, worry about dining services. This is ridiculous. This is political opinion, and Student Senate should not be used as a venue for your political opinion. I'm completely against giving benefits to illegal immigrants, but I'm not going to use student opinion as my political pundit. I mean, are we TV pundits here? Go to your state representatives and your state senators and your national senators and national representatives talking about this issue. Don't use student government as your mouthpiece. It's ridiculous. We should be talking about productive issues that pertain to students. This is a political opinion that we have no business making. And when it was introduced, it did not address current legislation, and as it stands, there's promises of legislation being introduced at higher levels of government that does not exist yet, and so this bill is meaningless, it was directionless, there was no reason for it being introduced. And it has not taken into, it has not shared the information with the student body. It's a complex issue, it's controversial. If we're going to take a stand on something that's controversial, we need to have a lot more input from the students.
Point of information.
State your point.
How many of the original bill authors were members or closely affiliated with the student group Texas Aggie Conservatives?
I refer that to Jessica Blaney.
It's very few, but
Stay in order. State your point.
Or that point of information is debatable.
How is that?
It's not debatable. That's out of order. Define closely associated with. A member of? How many people are a member of Texas Aggie Conservatives? Already raised. Who are bill authors?
I couldn't give you an answer, but I can tell you that most people are not.
We don't use Aggies.
Point of information.
State your point.
How many of those that spoke in open forum tonight were members of student organizations here at Texas A&M that spoke on behalf or came with the student organization?
I would say a lot.
How is that relevant?
This is getting extremely debatable, so we're going to cut it right here. With that, to debate for Senator Robinson. State your point.
Point of information, is this a current and was it a current issue at the national level in April and currently now?
Yes. Senator Robinson. Robinson, sorry.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Mr. Robertson, College of Agriculture.
Let me just tell you real quick. I, of course, am for this, but you also notice about the whole Hispanic background. The movie "We Never Been Licked," Fish Alvarez. He's from south of the border. I just want to point that out. That was in '43. But also, let me tell you a little story about one of my freshmen, Fish Wing. He is brand new to the United States, pretty much, from Vietnam. He might speak a full paragraph of words in English, and he decided to make the big mistake of joining the Corps as a freshman. Poor guy. And he showed up here, scared out of his mind, knew yes, no, and we taught him sir. So, the other day, I was wandering around, he comes out in the hallway scared out of his mind, and I decided to start talking to him. And he knows I'm a senator, and he asked how that was going. I was like, well, we have this Senate bill coming up about legal immigrants getting in-state tuition. And all of a sudden he got a really mean-looking face on him. I'm like, whoa, what's wrong with you? He was really upset because, being from Vietnam, he had to start his educational visa process from his country over 6 years ago. He had to start planning this out a long time ago. He had to go through the proper processes in Vietnam, had to go through the proper channels here in the United States. He even had to get a
foreign exchange student program here in the U.S. for at least a year before he could get an educational visa, like for a university. That's the way it worked over there. So when he was like, illegal immigrants in the United States are getting in-state tuition, when I had to work so hard and I had to join the Corps to get in-state tuition to be able to afford to come here, that's ridiculous. I've worked for over 6 years to get there. In my mind, I just feel that's a little bit wrong. He worked so hard to get in-state tuition. I'm not saying it's easy for anybody. I'm not saying that it's wrong that people are here, but they can't do anything about that. That's where their families came from. But they can find a way to get through the channels to get there. And providing U.S. services to those two illegal immigrants is not okay. And I hope you vote for this because there are people who've had to go through a lot just to get there.
With that, the chair would like to make the body aware that 6 of the 41 authors on this bill were members of Texas Ag Conservatives. State your point. Please stand.
Is that the original bill?
The original bill that
When it
was
was introduced last semester.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that, to debate against Senator Pena.
All right, howdy.
Howdy.
I'm here, I'm reading on behalf of another senator who wasn't able to be here, and he wrote something that he would like to present to you guys. Howdy, Ags. My name is Matt Colker, and I'm a Northside Student Senator. I cannot be at tonight's meeting because I am having my wisdom teeth pulled out early tomorrow morning, so I had to drive home. Although I will not be there to vote tonight, I want you to know how I feel on the in-state tuition bill. When considering the issue before us, I disregarded the finances part because undocumented students do pay taxes to Texas. Instead, I thought about my role here at this great university. The end goal of this bill would be to make it more difficult for a group of students to remain here at Texas A&M. I was elected to be an Aggie student senator, not U.S. senator. I represent my fellow Texas Aggies above anyone else and cannot, in good faith, vote for this bill. Please remember, you represent Texas Aggies and vote no today for the in-state tuition bill. Thanks and giggle.
Wait, I vote to Minnesota. Can you submit your amendment in writing to the chair? Yes. Actually, you'll need to present it to Caroline since.
Point of information.
State your point.
While,
Please stand.
yeah, while she's typing that up, can we continue the debate?
Sure.
I have a lot of information also.
State your point, please stand.
How many current illegal immigrants will this affect if this bill was to be voted yesterday?
0.
0. Okay, thank you.
Since there is a name on the floor, we waive it. Sorry, we found out today that the projector was broken, so that's kind of impeded our ability to work with it. So this would change enacted clause 2, the state order, to say, and regardless of revenue generated from taxes by illegal immigrants, opposed,
you've got to be kidding me.
HB 1403, and that it justifies giving illegal aliens in-state tuition. Is there a second for this amendment?
Read it all again.
And regardless of revenue generated by taxes by legal immigrants, oppose HB 1403 and that it justifies giving illegal aliens in-state tuition. Is that a second? With that, all those in favor of moving into debate on this amendment, please say aye.
It automatically.
No, but it's been seconded. Okay, yes. Now, those wishing to debate for this amendment.
No.
Senator Bland.
Just a point of fellows. I think what my colleague's getting at here is that our bill, I guess, wasn't very clear on one aspect, and we just wanted, she wanted to clear it up so that when we pass the bill, people understand that what we're doing here is opposing House Bill 1403, which gives automatic in-state tuition to people in the country illegally. So it's just clarifying further the purpose of this bill. This bill is not about who comes to school here. This bill is not about who should be in the United States. This bill is about the state policy set forth by this current law that gives automatic in-state tuition for illegal aliens. And I'd like to yield, I guess, all right, Senator Trumbull.
What this amendment just says is it clarifies that this bill is against Texas House Bill that was passed in 2001, 1403, is all this amendment adds to the bill. I yield to the floor.
Point of information, Madam Speaker.
State your point.
Did Matt Colker write that word for word? Because I just called him.
I'll refer that to Chair Holmberg.
Chair Holmberg, rules and regulations. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the meeting, when Chair Esparza was sitting here writing stuff down, he was writing that down and then handed off Aaron Pena.
Point of information.
State your point.
Okay. Did that convey Matt Colker's feelings? And you can refer it back to me. Yes, it did. It did, in fact, convey his feelings, but as far as I wrote it for him.
Point of order.
State your point.
Is it in order to ask a question and have it be referred back to yourself?
Yes, it is.
Is that not debatable?
No.
Is that not a debatable move?
It's not debatable, and this is out of order. With that, we're moving back into debate on this amendment. Those wishing to debate against this amendment? Senator Womack?
Yeah, howdy. Last thing to say on this. House Bill 1403 doesn't exist anymore. It's actually Senate Bill 1528, so we're actually posing something in this bill that doesn't even exist anymore. So it's typical of what's going on right now. Nobody really has a clue what the heck's going on. But since it's not going to this bill,
stay in order.
I'm not a poli-sci major. Don't parallel bills have to exist in both houses? So shouldn't there be a number for both of them?
Yes.
In the Senate and the House?
Point of information. I think I can answer that if you could refer it back.
Senator Harris?
I believe it takes on the letters of the House in which it originated. So if it was redone by the Senate at a later time, it would have changed, I guess. That's what I
Sorry, just Matt talking.
Senator Womack, please sit down. Chair Caperton? People keep calling points of information.
That's all right. We need a clarification that 1403 doesn't exist.
Okay. With that, finish debate.
Okay. 1403 doesn't exist. Please scrap this amendment and let us continue back debating about relevant things.
Senator Flynn.
Madam Speaker, I have a point of information. What does 1403 exist? This is from the state of Indiana.
Yeah, look at it there. So everybody can see it. Everyone, please stay in order.
Alright, so what this is House Bill 1403. It's the original state law that put this practice in place, as you can see, 2001. It's exactly everything else.
Okay, those wishing to debate for this amendment? Senator Lane?
It appears that House Bill 1403 does exist, so vote in favor.
Point of information, just really quick. Do we have an extension on the meeting tonight?
Yes, we have an extension until 11:30, but I think that's a hard deadline. Okay. With that, there's a motion on the floor to move the previous question and vote on this amendment. Second, all those in favor of passing this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Independent the chair, the ayes do have it. We'll now move back into general debate with this amendment added. I believe the last person to speak was Senator Pena-Dix, so Senator Lang speaking for.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I'm after I graduate from A&M, a sad day, but I do plan on going to law school. Law schools do also do in-state and out-of-state tuition. I would like nothing more than to maybe go to law school outside of Texas. I'm looking at the University of Arkansas and the University of Tennessee. However, I am a resident of Texas. Okay, my parents, I was born here. They brought me to Texas, okay? So I'm looking at possibly going to Lubbock for law school. Yeah. I'm not too thrilled about that. You know what? I'm a citizen, and I follow the rules. I'm not a resident of Arkansas. So if I can't afford to pay for Arkansas, that's tough. I'm going to go to Lubbock. That's that. And I don't see why, and I'm a citizen of the United States, okay? I don't see why they're not making any exception for me, so why should we make, and I'm a citizen, so why should we make an exception for people who are not citizens of the United States? That's tough. That your parents came here, okay? But my grandparents moved from Louisiana, they moved from Mississippi, they moved to Alabama, and they moved to Texas. I can't go to school in those states anymore. I go to school in Texas. I pay in-state tuition in Texas because that's where I'm zoned to, and I'm a citizen, and I don't have any special rights afforded to me, so why should we afford special rights to people who aren't even supposed to be here in the first place? They did, after all, break the law. It is against law to enter the United States illegally. That's tough. And with that, I yield to Chair Russo.
Chair Russo, Student Services. A couple of things that I think need to be clarified tonight. During open forum, this bill was characterized as being hurtful to people, making it appear as if we are going to have a reputation of intolerance. It's going to set us back. What I ask is, who is this going to appear to that we're intolerant or trying to set people back? When we have people from other states that have nowhere near the level of state universities that we have, and they want an opportunity to come to a fine business or agriculture or engineering school like Texas A&M, and particularly in engineering where we consistently rank in the top 10 schools in the nation, depending on what polls you look at, why should we force those people to forgo the same opportunities that are afforded to people that are not even in this country legally?
With that, before we continue to debate, I'd ask everyone to please keep talking, even whispering to a minimum. There's a lot of people in here, and we need to remain respectful to the person talking. With that, to debate against Senator Smith.
Howdy, Brody Smith, College of Arts. As you can see, we still have a lot of students here that want to have their opinions heard, and I have a few notes here that they would like you all to take account of. For one, undocumented students cannot receive loans, either private or federal. Out-of-state students just arrived to Texas. These students have been here for years. Not everyone here is undocumented. There are certain amnesty programs that you can receive, and international students pay $37,589 in order to be here a year. They also want me to remind you that 1403 is not the law pertaining to this bill. Senate Bill 1528 is. And I also wanted to point out for my constituent Carlos Roque, I signed an affidavit and have become a resident. I didn't have to go back to my country where I was born. There is a way to become a resident and later a citizen signing an affidavit if one of your parents is a resident or citizen. So there is a way.
With that, we have about a minute left in debate, just so everyone knows.
Madam Speaker, can I make a friendly amendment to the bill to change it to Senate Bill 1528?
They're both the same.
If you want, or no, that's not friendly.
But it has to be approved by the body.
With that, those wishing to approve of this friendly amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Senator Bloom?
Debate time-wise, so.
There's a motion on the floor to move debate, or to add debate time by 7 minutes, multiple seconds. We don't kiss aye, guys. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Nay. Chair calls home division. All those for extending debate by 7 minutes, please stand. Will all those opposed please stand? This motion needs 2/3 to pass, so it fails. With about a minute left, to speak for Senator Davenport.
Senator Davenport, guys, I'm an education minister. This bill is very heavy on my heart because it is an extremely difficult issue. Extremely difficult issue for a lot of people. And it took a lot of soul searching, a lot of talking with constituents to make my mind up on this bill. And the reason why I'm for this, the state of Texas has an obligation to educate people. And whenever I say people, I mean children between the ages of 1 and 18 years old. Whenever you become an adult, your education's on you. That means that you have to do whatever it is you have to do to become an educated citizen, to contribute to this state, to contribute to our success and to our economy. I support this bill. I support this bill because I think it's gravely important that we promote a community of honesty here at Texas A&M. You know, I've always said don't punish a child for the sins of his father. But that's not what we're doing here. It's not saying no one's welcome at Texas A&M. It's not what it's saying. That's not what I'm saying. I welcome each and every individual, no matter their race, color, creed, or status, to come to Texas A&M. But as an in-state resident, you need to be a citizen. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I think we need to support this bill. And with that, I yield to Clark Cambridge.
How much time do I have left?
About 15 seconds.
I'd like to clarify real quick. The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board does provide money that goes to A&M that can be divvied out to anybody, including undocumented students. So there are loan programs through the university that are available. I've heard that argument that they don't get that, so those are available. The other thing is, I've heard a lot of people speak that we should not, as a body, act on this. I will tell you again that I have spent time in Austin, and this is going to come up, and they've asked for student opinion. It is our obligation to represent
Time for debate has now expired. We'll now move. There is a motion on the floor for a roll call vote. Is there a second? No. Couple of seconds. All those in favor of taking a... You're right, it is 1 second. Thank you, Senator William. All those who wish to second moving this to a roll call vote, please raise your placards.
Ballot.
That doesn't pass. We will move to a ballot vote. Do you have ballots? State your point. Stay in order, everyone.
As far as I know, that he cannot fill out the ballot for whoever was out for his seat.
Out of order. Senator William.
Madam Speaker, I move that as soon as these ballots are collected, you take a special attendance of the roll.
Okay. Does that need a second? Does that need a second? Everyone stay in order.
Basically, we need to take
You think, okay. Basically what this means is after we collect all these ballots and they're tabulated, we will take another roll call vote just to see who's here. If that's acceptable.
Wait, after or before?
After. Raise your hand if you still need a ballot.
You get the ballot? Are you a senator? What?
State your point.
Getting in backwards so that we can...
Yes, okay, no problem. Okay, on your ballot votes, I know we haven't done these often. It'll say the bill, right, SB 6311. It says for, against, or abstain. If you check or X or whatever mark for, then you're voting for this bill. If you check against, you are voting against this bill, as is written in your email inbox. And you can abstain, which means you will be recused from voting at all. Please put your name, signature, and caucus. Ballots.
Any more? John, have you given yours? Thank you.
given to someone, please sit and don't talk. Okay, with that, while the ballots are being tabulated, we will continue with our agenda. It's quite extensive. If there are no objections, we'll quickly move into new business. I was going to, without objection, move to something else. Okay. We're gonna consent to let the Chief Justice Dave Glishman take a special roll call and see who's here. So he's gonna look on the sheet and see who's marked present earlier. But with that, we will now move into new business and present SB 6344, the SGA report on proposed fee increases for fiscal year 2012 adoption bill. Everyone, please stay in order.
Oh, is this screen protector?
Yeah, it's a screen protector. It's got the Apple virus, the first one.
Hey, we're about to present the SGA report bill.
I'm going to try that one more time. Howdy!
Howdy!
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to quickly go through this in the best interest of time. I am going to assume that you have all read your emails and that you read the SGA fee report proposal that has been drafted. I want to start out by saying that this is not a final opinion. It is a draft, because right now is the time for all of you as student senators to express your concerns, to express your opinions on these fees. We have yet to receive the final results for the survey that went out. It did go out via campus-wide email, thanks to Gigam, and it will be concluding next Tuesday. And so we will have those included in the report and to you at that time before the meeting in 2 weeks. I want to go through here really quick and just run through what the current opinions are, whether it be approving or disapproving the proposed fee increases. Again, in the best interest of time, I'm going to start by saying consider everything approved with the exceptions of the foreign student application fee. We would like to get your input on that. This is really your opportunity to help us try to evaluate these things and come up with the best decisions possible on these fees. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those in a little bit. Also, another thing I'd like to point out is the Rec Sports Center fee is 1.8%. That is not a 3% increase. And according to the SGA fee review committee rules or regulations, whatever you want to call it, the Student Senate will review all fee increase requests over 3%. So.
And with that, the rec fee isn't the only one under 3%. We're going to go back through and make those corrections. No fees that are under that 3% mark we'll take a stance on. And any fees that are more than 9.9%, so 10 and over, those automatically go to student referendum. So we take an opinion on all the fees that fall within that.
And another thing is that we have the, I believe it's the 4 fees that affect graduate students strictly, and so that's kind of a separate grouping there altogether. And so based on the presentations, it states this under each fee in this bill, in this report rather, based on the presentations and based on the justification provided, that is how we came up with the decisions that were made. So, all that to kind of vaguely transition into question and answer time. This is your opportunity to speak your mind. If you do not have, say, a question right now, but you have a question tomorrow, it's important that you email that in. We did not receive any emails from y'all this past week, since the fee meeting last week. And so I expect to get some feedback before then. The survey will help, but y'all are the ones that get to vote. So with that, I'm going to open it up, if we can, to question and answer.
Does anyone have questions? Yeah, seeing none, this will be referred to the students' SGAB committee.
Thanks, and Gigam.
With that, we'll now move back into new business, or stay new business, to present SR 6315, the Toby OWG ID recognition resolution. And resolutions are voted on in the meeting they're presented. So will the presenters please come forward. Okay, he's not in the room right now, so we're just going to continue down. There are no directions, no adult. Okay. You have 10 minutes right now.
Howdy.
Howdy.
So a lot of you were here last week, and we heard a lot of different debates about the nature of silver taps and all these different things. And like many of you, agonized over the decision about what to do. Right? It was not a fun choice at all to make. To tell somebody that. That being said, silver taps is for current students. Right? That's the decision we came to. We supported TC's ruling on that. I think that's appropriate. Those are the rules. But there's a very, very big difference, and this must be known. There's a very big difference between doing what is by the book and doing what is right. Simply saying, these are the rules. There you have it, Toby's family. These are the rules. There you have it, Texas A&M basketball team. These are the rules. There you have it, Toby's friends. That's not good enough. We're better than that. We need to find a solution. Simply just applying the rules to any situation will get you the same results that we've always gotten. So that being said, in the spirit of that, I've drafted this resolution. I'd like to make it more prosaic and a little bit longer, but I want to make sure that it can fit on a page because I intend to frame it and give it to a member of Toby's family, give it to maybe his friends or maybe the A&M basketball team to show that this person specifically made an impact to people at Texas A&M. The thing that got me thinking long and hard about this, because I changed my mind through that open forum several times about what should we do, right? What should we do about this? And the thing that I overwhelmingly decided was that regardless of the rules, this man was an Aggie. No one debates that, right? Traditions Council said it is so. I believe it's so. I can't tell you what makes an Aggie, but I can tell you when I see it. And when I see people come in here from his high school and beg us to honor him in such a way, and to find out that the day after he died, people didn't wear black, they didn't wear the school colors, they wore maroon to honor him. That makes you an Aggie. It's in this resolution. My grandpa, he's a great man. He's not an Aggie, right? Being great in character doesn't make you an Aggie. But developing a passion for Texas A&M on this campus made his circumstances different. Now, some people in whispered hushes say, this is a special exception for an athlete. That's not the case at all. This man spent time on campus, fell in love with Texas A&M, and developed an Aggie spirit because of those two things, because of his outstanding character and because of the time he spent on campus. Toby is an Aggie. And we owe it to him, to his family, and to the Aggie family to honor that. So I ask you tonight to always remember with this resolution and with everything we do, don't just do what the rules say. Find a way to do what's right. Grant?
Yeah, I'll just close real fast. It was unfortunate last week. There was a lot of talk about the rules of Traditions Council and who has jurisdiction where. There wasn't a lot of talk at all about Toby and how we should honor him. So at the very least, I think we owe this to his family, we owe this to him, we owe this to everyone who came and spoke and everyone who Toby impacted to pass this resolution and put our full support behind him, regardless of the politicking and the issues between us and Traditions Council.
So with that, we're open for questions.
With that, are there any questions for the authors? Senator Harris,
Withdraw.
any questions? Senator Robertson?
Hey, for Charles College Day. This one, in, I don't know, some instances, this wouldn't like open it back up to the fact of not getting the silver tax.
No, this is a very rare case that I've decided, silver tax is only for current students. So, you know, Zach Cook, he died 5 days after, 18 days after he graduated. He didn't get a silver tax. There's apparently now a very rare circumstance where you can be an Aggie, and not just, you know, there's not just Aggies, right, that attend this university, and there are the vast majority that are not current students anymore. Toby was a rare example of someone that was an Aggie, that wasn't a current student on the other side. So this is in no way intended to bring up silver tax muster or anything like that. It's just to pay honor to the life he led and the university that dedicated himself to.
I'm ready.
Senator Harris?
Jody Harris, off campus. Mark, I'm glad y'all brought this up. I was wanting to know, are y'all aware that in 1895, a woman was allowed to be part of of an Aggie class at a time when we didn't allow, obviously, women into the college until the 60s. And so I just wondered if you or the body was aware. I'm glad that you're doing it this way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was wanting to know if anyone was aware.
I'm not entirely sure how that's remained, but I will answer that I know that in past, and even back in the 1800s, like I said, various women were allowed into the university on the condition that they were a professor's daughter or an administration's daughter or maybe even a wife of a cadet or something like that. So there were exceptions that women were allowed into the institution before 1963. I don't know exactly how to answer your question other than that.
With that, are there any further questions? Speaker Bowen?
Scott Bowen, College of Engineering. Would you be willing to accept, or just make right now, a friendly amendment to refer to him as Toby Oyedeji, class of 14?
Yeah, that sounds great. Just go ahead and put right in the front line, Toby Oyedeji, class of 2014. Yeah, I think fight Texas Aggie.
Are there any further questions or friendly
We have like
amendments? Stay in order. With that, I will now move into a period. Generally.
I just want to make sure the fight didn't have like just a no cheat.
But yeah, the fight. That's the only way.
Are there any further questions, Senator Harris?
No, I'm debating for it.
Okay. Well, before we move into debate for this, the chair would like to make the body aware of the following vote. For SB 6311, the in-state tuition bill, it passes 41-4, 26 against with 2 abstentions. We'll now move into a period of debate on this resolution for Toby Oyedeji's recognition resolution. Senator Harris?
Yeah, I think this is a great way.
Please stay in order.
I think this is a great way to honor Toby. I know I mentioned to a senator about this when we debated this last time. It is all the way back into the 1800s. A&M has allowed people, have voted people, or have agreed to let people come into a class, whether it be the class of 1895 and the class of 1903. We've allowed this. It's something that's been done before. It's been done twice, at least. Therefore, it is a unofficial tradition. I really like this, and I'm glad that y'all brought it up this way, and I think it'd be, and I yield to Senator Ariza.
Howdy. When we first had this issue brought up to the Senate, Grant and I authored a resolution that passed. I think this is just another great way to show how the students of Texas A&M felt about Toby Oyedeji and how we are going to continue to feel. And this is a great way to honor him, so definitely vote for it.
With that, are there any motions to debate against? Senator Ricard.
Josh Reichert off campus. I'd just like to say from a first-person view, not a hearsay, I had the privilege of being a manager of the basketball team last year, and so I got to see Toby, and I saw him at camp in the summer, and I saw him out throughout the year, being in the locker room and hanging with the guys, and he was an Aggie, and he wanted to come, and he was excited about coming, and those guys really love Toby, and I just thought I'd give you all instead of a hearsay first person.
Without those wishing to debate for? Seeing none, we'll now move into a period of voting on this resolution. I guess we'll take a ballot vote.
Motion for a voice vote.
There's a motion on the floor for a voice vote with multiple seconds. All those in favor of the voice vote, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Move the chair, the ayes have it. All those who wish to pass SR 6315, the Toby Odedeji Ag Recognition Resolution, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. All right, this resolution passes. With that, we will now move back into old business for the sake of the legislative.
Point of
agenda.
information.
State your point.
What happened to the special roll call vote? Or special roll call?
We didn't know what to do with it. Speaker Bowen will refer that to you.
But what we were planning to do was take a roll before the actual vote and then cross out on the vote sheet to see how many votes were for people not actually here. I guess that was the intention. But
the issue was
10 minutes passed. I mean, there's
10 minutes past where Chief Justice David Glashing was tabulating the votes, and there were people who had to already leave for a test. There were people who had to go, and so they were here for the vote and for all the debate, but they weren't here when roll was taken.
Now we will keep the ballots so that if there are any, if anyone does have any contention to it, then they will be available for review. So.
With that, we'll now continue moving to the old business if there's no objections. Will the bill authorize SB 6337, the higher education budget cut opposition bill, please come forward.
Well, howdy. Howdy. It's kind of cleared out a little bit. Well, the bill still, I mean, it says the same thing. The only thing we changed a few things, grammatical errors. English is not my major. And so we changed a few grammatical errors. Really, like I said, self-explanatory bill. With that, any questions? This is the higher education bill.
Okay, so those of you with questions, seeing none, this bill will be referred. Old business. Okay. Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate. Those speaking for, please raise your hands. Chair Russo.
Okay, I think this is what we've been talking about all night, whether like during the previous debates and all of that, and what we got an update about. This is asking to support an effort to lobby for less of a cut to higher education. And I think that's definitely warranted considering what the people who come out of this university give to the state of Texas. And with that, I'll yield to Senator Davenport.
Thanks, Chair. So, guys, just to reiterate, these bills, these LR bills that are coming through are extremely important to be passed tonight. Because if these aren't passed tonight, then we're not going to have a legislative agenda to start giving to the people who've been elected to the 82nd legislature. Is that where we're on now? Are we on 82nd? I think so. 99 Republicans. But it's really important to go ahead and pass this so that we can be prepared and give them good opinion that's been vetted by the student senate. And with that, I'll yield to Brody Smith.
Hi, this is Brody Smith, Public Remarks. I am kind of discussing the fact that we, as in higher education, took the brunt of 41% of the state budget cuts. We are the Tier 1, the flagship university of the state of Texas. Cutting our funding hurts the Vision 2020, the diversification of our programs, and does not allow for the true Aggie education which we all deserve. And I fully believe that we need to go to Austin, talk to these representatives and senators, and tell them that we want our education to be the best it can be, and not just something they can take off at our expense. And at that, I yield forward.
With that, any wishing to debate against?
Madam Speaker, I propose an amendment.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, as the new floor, that can be fine.
Looks good, man. Nice accent. You can say it or what? Oh, that's right.
Okay, we're still waiting for it to speak. Okay, the new amendment would change, therefore let it be enacted that the Texas A&M Student Government Association supports the Texas A&M University Legislative Appropriations Request, LAR, as submitted by the University Administration. Is there a second for this amendment? Should we need 1-6? Okay, there we go. To debate for this amendment, Chair Capers.
Howdy. Howdy. All right, so just to clarify, we were talking about this. The bill, which is great, we've done some work on. It sends the right message, but it pretty much just says that we oppose the cuts. So what is it? What are we supporting in essence? What we're saying here is that all members of the 82nd session will see a copy of the legislative appropriations request as submitted by the university. You heard Mr. O'Quinn, Vice President O'Quinn, mention that we've submitted that, and pretty much we are stating there wholeheartedly that we don't want to be cut disproportionate from the other institutions in the state, which is a big message for us. So in essence, we've acknowledged that we do not support a full cut, but what do we support? This clarifies that we're supporting the university's legislative appropriations request. I hope you'll vote for it. Madam Speaker, I move the previous question.
There's a motion on the floor for previous question, multiple seconds. All those in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. All right, with that, we'll move back into general debate on this legislation. Those wishing to debate against? Seeing none, Chair deems debate one-sided. We'll now move into a period of voting. There's a motion on the floor for a voice vote, multiple seconds. All those in favor of a voice vote, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. With that, we'll now move into a voice vote on this legislation. Those wishing to pass SB 6337, the Higher Education Budget Cut Opposition Bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Independent Chair, the ayes, you have it. With that, we will now continue in old business to SB 6336, the Student Enfranchisement Bill. Will the bill authors please come forward? Okay, which one? We'll deviate from the agenda and move to SB 6339, the Student Health Services Private Coverage Bill. Will those bill authors please come forward? What's going on? Scott's dealing with this right now.
Okay, nothing basically really has substantially changed about this bill from my understanding. Essentially what we are doing is we are not going, the point of this bill, and it's up to you to decide the official opinion, obviously, is that we are not advocating for an increase in the state health fee cap. And because Texas A&M actually has a little bit of wiggle room, currently the state cap is at $75 that they can impose on us as a fee, and we are currently at $72.50, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. $71.50. So we have $3.50 roughly there that they have wiggle room. So the point of this bill is to not go to Austin to lobby for them to increase the health fee beyond the $75. Also, it would encourage our health center to explore the possibility of using a third-party system and a matrix type system.
Let me correct that, because this bill was amended in committee significantly. I'm going to ask to step in for Chair Capers to explain that. What this bill is asking for is not a third-party billing system like the Fred Brown bill that was introduced. What this is introducing is kind of a middle way between the system that we have right now and the system in that House bill that would completely eliminate, in theory, the health fee and make it to where only private insurance was accepted. What this is doing is, because a portion of the health fee goes to not individual visits, but for a community health function, for preventing outbreaks of various contagious diseases and things like that, there would still be a fee, but as a revenue generator because the fee would have to go up over the next 10 years otherwise. Instead, this bill proposes that we advocate for a system in which private insurance is accepted in order to pay for visits and procedures and things of that nature as a revenue generator. And you would still pay the health fee to cover the community health functions and things like that. And what that does is it allows us over the next 8 to 10 years to shift more to a use-by-use basis for the fee rather than the flat fee like we have right now. And they can use that system to generate extra revenue without raising the flat rate fee. So when we hear rumblings of things like a new health center and things like that, we wonder where that money's going to come from. Well, they proposed raising the fee cap to $125 and having it over the next 8 years go to $100 flat fee. Well, what we would propose here is no increase in the fee cap, but shift over to where the health center accepts private insurance. So when you go in, you'd pay a copay, and that would be your form of paying for it. And the health fee itself would pay for the more community health functions and things like that.
Essentially melding the two and creating some sort of a matrix type system.
With that, are there any questions? Senator Young.
Oh, Young College of Education. How is that better than what we have now? Well, what we have, it's not better than what we have now. And I'll tell you why. Because actually in the short term, that would mean that the costs, if you were a high user, would increase. But over the next 8, 10 years, because we would have to raise the health fee anyway, then the cost, on average, I think would probably, it would raise a little bit, but again, it would raise at about the same rate, but it would shift the cost structure to one that's more on a per-use basis than on a flat rate basis.
No, you can follow it.
Okay, no, follow it.
Yes.
So instead of like paying our yearly fee or whatever, how we'll be paying as each time we go in from our like Medicaid, Medicare, blah blah blah, something like that.
Right, or your private insurance.
The fee structure would still be in place. It would not increase at such a large, rapid pace. It would create that middle ground and kind of help even it out.
They actually anticipated that over a long period of time, the health fee might actually be able to decrease to reflect the higher amount of revenue they're getting from private insurance companies.
With that, are there any further questions? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate on this legislation. Those wishing to debate for, Senator Harris.
Jody Harris, off campus. I was actually at the meeting where they were discussing this. We were discussing this with the, I guess you'd say the director, Dr. Dannenbaum. I'm sorry. And she's all for this. She really likes the hybrid system, the system of, like Chris was talking about. And she supports the health center moving to this. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if we're ever going to see the super butyl, come alive in the next 10 years, then this is the system we'll have to be on anyway. So, to Senator Davenport.
All right. I just wanted to point out one thing. I'm absolutely for this bill. But in speaking with some people at the health center, what I've been told is that without increasing the cap, we're going to have to forfeit some things. I mean, it's kind of give and take. If we don't increase the cap, then there are some things we won't be able to get that we might otherwise would be able to get. So be cognizant of that. I think it's a good thing that we're limiting the cap, especially right now whenever we have this economic downturn and students are really having to reach deep in their pockets. But realize that this comes at a cost and make sure that you factor that in whenever you vote tonight. Thanks again.
Was that any wishing to vote to debate against this piece of legislation? Seeing none, we'll now move into a period of voting on this legislation. Senator Lane?
I move for a voice vote.
There's a motion on the floor for a voice vote. Multiple seconds. All those in favor of the voice vote, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes do have it. Those in favor of passing SB 6337, the higher education budget cut, please say aye. Wait. 39, sorry. SB 6339, the Student Health Services Private Coverage Bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes do have it. This legislation passes. With that, we'll move back to the presentation of SB 6337, the higher education budget cut opposition bill.
Point of information.
State your point.
Madam Speaker, is it in order for me to move that on all other legislative agenda items that we have either a ballot vote or a roll call vote that there is a numerical record yet?
Second.
That's, if there are no objections.
Would that be okay
Someone
with
has to go.
Madam Speaker, may I also ask, would our friends from the executive branch be okay with that? Would that be something they'd be open to?
Yes, it's going to be open to that. Now you can.
Senator Davenport, absolutely. A numerical record is always a great thing to have. However, at the point that this legislation passes, do know that it does become the official statement of the Student Government Association and de facto the student body, and therefore whatever this body passes, that legislative relations in conjunction with SVP Robinson will be taken to Austin. So therefore, a numerical record is great for this body and it's absolutely great for us, but regardless, it doesn't necessarily change the passage or fail of the bill.
Chair Gibson.
Point of information first, I guess. Are we back on the student region bill or are we
On the student region bill. Everyone stay in order. Yeah, the student region bill.
I'd like to propose an amendment, please.
We're still in presentation. What's the deal on this?
No. That was, he had a point of information.
Yeah.
So,
now we're back on.
Yes, now we're back on.
All right, so yeah, we just made a minor amendment to this bill. What
Everyone please stay in order.
I had typed in there wrong. It said House Bill, I think 172 is what it said. 712, sorry. And that did not pass last legislative session, so it's got to get a new number this go around, but it's being introduced. So this is just simply saying that we want to support legislation similar to House Bill 712 previously introduced. So that's the only change. And also, Clark's last name is spelled with a C and not a K. Any questions about this bill? I'm sorry, is that you?
Are there any questions?
Sorry.
Seeing none, we'll now move into a period of debate on this bill. Those wishing to debate for. Chair Peterson.
Howdy. Howdy. Okay, so pretty much for those of you who still may be a little bit out of the loop as to what this does, the student regent who serves as currently as the non-voting member of the Board of Regents, this would make them a voting member if legislation similar to House Bill 712, which is likely going to be introduced, is passed. So what we're doing is we're stating that we support that. It would give the students an actual voice vote on the Board of Regents. So the Board of Regents is the ultimate decision-making body for the A&M system. So I would just encourage you guys to vote for this. It's a good measure. It provides students increased voice and representation in the Board of Regents. So other than that, I yield the floor.
Are there any wishing to debate against? Seeing none, chair deems debate one-sided. We'll now move into a period of voting on this bill. Everyone should have received ballots. Please mark those. Again, we are voting on SB 6336, the student regent enfranchisement bill.
Give me your ballots. 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 Ballots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ballots, ballots. Anybody?
Taking the ballot.
Are all ballots collected? Yeah, put your hands up if you need a ballot.
Anybody else have a ballot outstanding?
Ballot outstanding. I think government too long.
Okay, everyone stay in order with that. We'll continue Moving on, and present SB 6332, the Parking Communication and Enforcement Bill. You have 10 minutes starting at half.
Howdy.
Howdy.
All right, well, a couple meetings ago, you may have remembered, I was standing up here introducing a bill called the First Parking Ticket Warning Bill. It has some whereas clauses in it. I've got stats. There was recently an article in the back about increasing ticket fines, excuse me, not fines, but ticket quantities. And there was also an enacted clause in there requesting the Transportation Services grant parking ticket warnings in lieu of a first fine imposing ticket. From there, I met with Peter Lang, the Executive Director of Transportation Services. Chris Russo was there and was kind enough to take notes. But in that meeting, we discussed a lot of the motives of Transportation Services, how their tickets have been decreasing in time, a lot of data. And basically, in the last several years, parking tickets have been going down by thousands, actually. And the numbers in September are, on average, higher than the rest of the year, just because it's the first semester, or the first month in the semester. But over time, they have been going down. And the dilemma with having a parking ticket warning is that we feared that people would use it. Instead, we discussed with them several options, and I'll scroll down here. All right. One of the big dilemmas that students faced, and one of the reasons there was a bill, is because students upset over parking tickets, primarily in this case, was due to the lot changes by the rec. They converted spaces to pay lots, people were confused, people parked there, people got tickets, they didn't like it. So we talked to Transportation Services, and what they said is that they have a 2-week grace period that happens after a lot change. Unfortunately, when the lot change was made, it was 4 weeks before class started. So there was a 2-week, or it was in such an amount of time that the grace period was over before class started. So when everyone shuffled back in, they got back here, they started getting tickets again, and the grace period was over. What we said is that we want Transportation Services to have that grace period at the beginning of the next regular semester. So if they make a change over the summer that happens in June, then that grace period begin in the first 2 weeks of class. We also, in committee, discussed other things that would help communication, because communication is what we want here. And you'll see that the other enacted clause, the one after that, asks that we have a table on the back of the parking pass that outlines, which lots you can park
Everyone,
at,
please stay in order.
which lots you can park at, when you can park at them, when nighttime officially begins. The next, let's see. Okay, excuse me. I just outlined the second and third enacted clause. The first enacted clause, which was originally requesting a parking ticket, or parking warning, it has been modified to request a consistent warning system. Right now, some people get warnings, and it's not real consistent. If you're in a garage, you can get a warning if you're parked on the wrong floor. And what we'd like to see is a consistent warning system, so that there's no confusion about, hey, why did I get a warning in this guy's exhibit? And lastly, the fourth enacted clause asks the Transportation Services continue on with their communication efforts. They expressly pointed out that they are not in the business of collecting revenue from tickets, that it's purely from an enforcement side. And we want them to continue with the communication plan, updating signage. They're going to put a sign at West Campus Garage saying that it's open to all permits after 4 p.m. They're also going to continue modifying signs to say, football lots, night lot, stuff like that. With that,
Are there any questions? Senator Harris?
bill doesn't specify what lots get warnings and which ones don't, but we want a consistent policy. And as for a lot change where there would be a forgiveness policy, that would be lots that pertain to students. So like if there was an update to a professor's lot that didn't affect the students, then obviously there wouldn't be a great freedom.
Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate on this bill. All those speaking for. Senator Womack.
Howdy. This is a great bill. A problem was identified. A solution was formulated. Dialogue was had with administrations to find the source of the problem. A compromise was made. Students will be better off after this bill is passed. Thank you, Chairman Guthrie. Thank you, people on everybody that had something to do with this piece of legislation. It's a great way that we can actually serve students. Thank you for that. With that, I move to previous questions.
Previous question is, the chair will advise the previous question is out of order when anyone speaking against has not been heard. Is there anyone to speak against? Seeing none, the chair will call the debate one-sided and will now move into a period of voting.
Move for voice vote.
Voice vote has been moved and seconded. All in favor of a voice vote, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Are you
in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. All in favor of passing this bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The bill passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the there aren't. As far as I can tell, there aren't more bills. The body will come to order. As far as I can tell, there are no more bills. Are there any other motions to be made? Okay. We will now return to business then. Business? Which ones? Okay. We'll now deviate from the agenda and move into business once again. Consider the university's use absence bill. Chair Esparza.
Yeah, this is a pretty rough written bill. It's an idea that one of the members of the academic trustee had. So I'll let her tell you about the idea and then we'll go on.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I had a mechanical engineering senior come to me, and he had this idea for a bill. He's looking for a job, as most seniors are right now. He was going to the career fair, which engineering career fair was a few months ago from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. 4? Something like that. But he had class solid, so he had to pick a class to miss. But all of his professors basically threatened that they give a test or a quiz or more of a quiz or pop quiz, something like that. So it really hindered him from going to the career fair, but he had to still choose class. So we're moving for there to be a.
We have a pretty rough written bill here that Jen and I came up with. We're going to get to committee. We're going to work on it, go line by line, which is the best bill possible before we send it back to you. Is there any questions?
Senator Esparza.
I mean, I'm sure y'all thought about this. Is there a way you can sign in or sign out anytime you're at the career fair so the teachers know that this isn't just a blow-off day? Because I know if I would have a career fair and I wasn't looking for a job, I probably just wouldn't go to class. So is there a way that you can check students to make sure they're going to the career fair?
You can sign in. You have to have your ID to get into the career fair. There's no sign-out process. We can definitely look into that.
Any other questions?
I think that falls in line with the Aggie Honor Code.
Senator Young.
Cole Young, College of Engineering. Have y'all thought about also interviews? Because I was going to write a bill about interviews that.
Yes, that I think is actually included in this rough draft.
I don't think it is, but we can add it on the committee. Like, we get it on there.
We're talking about it. So yeah, definitely. And anyone else who wants to.
Are there any more questions? Seeing none, this bill will be sent to the A committee.
I'm going to round of applause for Jen tonight. It's her first bill.
It's a rough bill. We get to committee, go line by line, and then we'll send back a solid bill to y'all, and we'll explain the idea to you.
Howdy. So the idea of bill was
There's evaluation.
okay, evaluations. So the idea was, let me talk about how we do evaluations. We take a 3 hours, 3 guide hours course, we go for evaluation. Everybody, like grads and undergrads. But the thing, so like you are taking 3 guide hours course, you are like you are going for the evaluation, we are going to evaluate the teacher, giving him the feedbacks and all those things. But think about other things, like a doctorate student or a grad student or the undergrad student who is going to do this, like what they call REU, this, like undergrads research experience, something like that. So there you are taking like maybe 30 hours of research. In case of grad student, you are taking 32 hours of research. But there is no way you are going to evaluate your instructor who is going to guide you during that thing. By evaluating, I mean like your instructor or your advisor might have spent an extensive amount of time like during those 30 hours. 30 hours means like if you are taking 9 hours each semester, so it means you are talking about like almost like 4 semesters. It means about like 2 years. So you have spent 2 years on these like research hours, but you have no way to send your evaluation. So the idea was we must have some way where university takes into account all those like 36 research hours in case of PhDs or like similar like in masters we have like about 20 research hours, and for REUs we have about 1 semester that's specific to undergrads. So idea was we should have some type of evaluation for all these things. So with that I'm open to questions.
With that, are there any questions for the bill authors? Senator Webb?
Senator Webb, Bates Business School. Would this be better suited for graduate student council than students?
No, graduate
students.
Okay, give it a good
I will say that we are representative of all students in here. So we do represent graduate students here. We are going to speak with them about this. Then we get a joint bill out together and have send a powerful message that we really want this done.
And other thing is that this bill doesn't include only the grad students. I told you like undergrads they have this REU, research experience for undergrads, where you have to work for a semester. So and you don't have any way to evaluate your instructor but you have done that thing. So like it's not specific to grads. So it's like for undergrads and grads and that means the standard the best things.
We'll definitely stick with that.
Yeah, sure.
With that, are there any further questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred to the Academic Affairs Committee.
And a round of applause for Senator Chaudhry's first bill.
New business. Will the bill authors of SB 60 one more?
There's another bill. Get an idea for it. I'll explain that idea to you.
Okay, so the background of this bill was me and Senator Steve Brown. We were visiting General Webb and we were gathering the opinion of different students. And during that trip, we happened to visit WRC, that's Weizenbeck Engineering Research Center, and we were talking to a couple of grad students. And one of the grad students over there, what he mentioned was, his department, they have recently changed the, what they call like PhD evaluation exam. So what they used to have previously, so like the basic, giving you very, very brief way. Previously, like you are admitted to a graduate program, PhD program. So when you are admitted, you are a PhD student. After being evaluated with certain things, you transform to a PhD candidate. For that, you have to pass a certain exam. And what that student mentioned is, his department, they have changed this exam. And what are the problem with this thing? PhD is like very, very much specific thing. So when you are evaluating a PhD student, you should evaluate him what the things he is doing on, instead of looking at it like what he did in his bachelor's or all those things. So the idea of this bill is that we should, like, the department should continue the process they used to have, like, from like last 50 years or 100 years, instead of having this thing something suddenly. And then another problem with this, like what the department made changes to the policies was, the new policies were not applicable not only to the new students, but they were trying to apply them to the students who have been admitted to the university before these policies were announced. And we think that is not fair for the students who got admitted to Texas A&M when these policies were not in place. So what we want is that For the old students, don't impose these policies. Keep them whatever you have. And for the new student, if they don't like it, try to have a consultation with them, and instead of just imposing this. Any questions?
We have questions.
Without any questions? Seeing none, this will be referred to the Academic Affairs Committee. With that, we'll move on with new business. Will the bill authors of SB 6346, the Code Maroon Reevaluation Bill, come forward?
Howdy, guys.
Howdy.
This is basically just a bill to, I guess, reevaluate the problems that we experienced on Thursday due to the possibility of a shooter on campus. Thank goodness that didn't happen. But like, I believe it was Michael Tamez earlier, he came up here and he spoke about having to take a test. So TA was not informed of the Code Maroon. As a matter of fact, he said to me that as he was taking the test, as they started, 30 minutes after the first Code Maroon went out, someone came in and told the TA that there was a Code Maroon in action. Nothing happened at all. And I think that is a bit of a problem if your teacher doesn't know, if they aren't able to get that kind of information. Not all the students got all of the notifications from Code Maroon. This also addresses, I guess, being able to receive those in class regardless of location or activity. And that was basically most of the problem. There were places in lockdown, there were places that were not in lockdown. It was kind of a bit of a inconsistency with vague information. I had the privilege to talk to several students, and each of them across the board stated that the information was not clear enough for them. They didn't know what to do, and that Greg will.
I'd also like to point out that this Monday I was in a UConn meeting. I serve on the Student Media Advisory Board, which is largely comprised of members of the communication department, people who have opinions on this. And our discussions were largely surrounding this incident on Thursday. I'd like to quote the communication member, Dale Rice, who's also on the faculty senate, as saying that Code Maroon did a woefully inadequate job at informing students of danger. And rightfully so, because I was in Wayner 113 with Scott Bowen in a marketing class, and Code Maroon came in, and I got it like an hour later. And then the university was supposedly in lockdown from what people had on their laptops, what the news outlets were saying, and there was no real, defined spokesperson for the university during this time to relate to the news outlets, hey, this is what we're actually in. So word got out that we were in lockdown. However, when I left Wayner and walked back to main campus, there were people walking around, driving about, and we didn't get the all clear until sometime later. So that's what we're good.
With that, we'll now move into question and answer. Senator Landry. Go for it.
Okay. In my classes, we lose a point or a letter grade if we have our cell phones. Would you consider adding a ban on cell phone bans in class?
We did mention that it was a little more generic in one of the whereas clauses stating that regardless of circumstance or activity that the student is involved in, and that does include class, being able to get that information. If they do not have their phone on, having the person in charge, the instructor, be under obligation to relay that information to the students.
For instance, I heard from a student who was taking a test, and they were in the middle of the test, and nobody found out about the Code Maroon until after all the phones rang, when people walked out.
Well, my question was, during that tornado warning, a girl got the Code Maroon and was afraid to say that she had a Code Maroon on her phone for fear of losing a grade. So can we make it more strong?
I think that would be a good idea. That was actually another part of the reason I wrote the bill. That was something
With that, Senator Smith.
I just have a question I want to put to the body direct. Who here actually received the code room on the time in question?
I would say that's a point of information for that thing.
Okay.
Senator Davenport.
Senator Davenport, College of Education. The people that you talked to, did you happen to check with them to see when these individuals got the code room? Because from what I know, some got it at as early as 4:02, and some got it as late as 4:05, 4:10. What were you able to find whenever you communicated these students?
I was able to find that a lot of them, they did not. There was some delay in some of the information. As a matter of fact, when the threat was first recognized, the code room was not sent out until how many minutes later?
30 to 40 minutes later.
Which was ridiculous.
It was 3:20 to 3:30 was the original.
And if we have that kind of a delay, that's 20, 30 minutes of obvious problems that will go on. And I mean, that was one of the big issues. And yes, there was delay between students with text messages. Some will get them later. I know personally, I did not even get the third text message, and I know also the emails come later for some people as well, up to 10, 20 minutes later after the text message.
Can you have a brief follow-up?
Keep it brief.
Okay, whenever you take this to committee, would you mind adding in the bill when the incident first arose, and then when students started getting code rooms, just so there's some clarity to show that gap?
Yes, that's
Yeah, I want us to put in there that started at 3:20.
With that, Senator Barber.
Drew Barber off campus. Are you guys, I don't know, the way you guys are saying things, you're mainly referring to the text messages is my vibe from that. Was there also a discrepancy with the email? I mean, I was all clear on my end. I got everything in order as it should have been, I guess. But was email also a reported problem with the people you talked to?
Well, the email and the text message are essentially the same, have essentially the same information. The student doesn't get any more information until they go onto the Code Learning website, and that information was very vague. There were stories all over the place. There wasn't a consistent story. People were getting information like, what kind of information?
Well, in my class I heard stuff like that there was, the fella had like olive green shorts, and then he had like a green shirt, but he really had black shorts, and it was just going back and forth like that. And then like we heard that he was on West Campus, because I was on West Campus when the first one came in, and he was already gone on West Campus.
With that, Senator Lang.
Evan Lang, off campus. Can I preface the question too? Okay. So like in my class, the teacher, there was no set procedure. Like we got the note. I checked my phone. I got it at 4:04, which is still ridiculous. 3 whatever. Could you consider putting in that, like making a standard operating procedure for what professors should be doing? Because we just kind of sat there and the door was like open for several minutes, and then we finally closed it and locked it, and then we put a table over it. And so yeah, like can we make a standard operating procedure?
Yes, the standard contingency plan is going to address a uniform operating procedure for an instance like this, uniform for the university, being able to tell which buildings are unaffected by the problem, what buildings are unaffected by the problem, what buildings are postpone their activities, what buildings are clearly affected by.
With that, Senator Blaine.
Justin Floyd Bowles, guys, this is a great bill. I'm ecstatic. What can I do to help?
Get student feedback.
With that, are there any further questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred to the Student Services Committee. For that, I will the bill authors of SB 6345, the Student Service Fee Advisory Board Membership Reform Bill, please come forward. And be mindful of the time, we have 14 minutes.
Right, I'm going to keep it very fast. Basically, if you attended the fee meeting, you heard from the chairman of the Student Service Fee Advisory Board, Mr. Shaduka. And right now, the Student Service Fee Advisory Board is, a joint committee of 9 people created by state law. That is, 5 of them are chosen by student government, and 4 of them are chosen by the president of the university. And for those of you who don't realize the significance of that, that's actually pretty powerful. That's actual authority delegated by a state statute to a student government. So that's a pretty significant thing. What we're saying though is that what I'm saying in this bill is that all 9 of those seats should be chosen by the elected representatives of the student body, who are us. And the statute doesn't lay out a process for choosing those people. We have our own internal process that we use that will start in the spring, whereby they accept applications, and then I think it's the speaker, the student body president, the outgoing chair, and the graduate student council president then choose the members. So what we're at, this wouldn't affect that. That is, if that is something that needs to be changed or that people want to change, then that would be something we make in-house. All this asks is that those 4 members who are appointed by the president of the university, Dr. Lofton, are changed into seats appointed by student government, so that all 9 of them are appointed by the elected representatives in the student body. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the bill author? Seeing none, this will be referred to the External Affairs Committee. In the interest of time, we're going to have to skip open session if you send me a bill for open session. Okay, we'll move into open session.
We just have 2 very quick bills. They won't take long at all. 2 resolutions. Should have one in read.
I don't have your
Caroline 14 is the one in order.
You said to Caroline?
Caroline and you.
Sorry, with everything being...
Sorry. It won't take but 2 seconds, guys. Okay. Can we go ahead with the presentation very quickly? The first bill that we want to introduce is a thank you to Congressman Chet Edwards for his service to Texas A&M since 2004. We thought that would be in order, seeing as how he will no longer be representing us in Washington. We appreciate it. Do not have it. Okay, Jacob, can you take care of that real quick? You definitely know this 2 seconds, I apologize. Anybody have any questions?
Who was it that won the District of 17?
Bill Flores.
Okay, I just want to hear it again.
We just thought as far as time goes, it'd be great to get these individuals ASAP.
Senator Crumley.
Congressman Edwards did such a great job representing this district. Why was he voted out of office?
I think that the voters of Congressional District 17 decided that they would like to go with another congressman, although I think that they do sincerely appreciate what they've done, what he's done for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Because I know that I do, and I was in support.
Senator Young.
What will we be sitting in? Like a box of chocolates?
Stay in order. Stay in order, everyone.
Conservative and he has the support of A&M. Is this what we're trying to do?
Sounds like a debatable question, but...
Yeah, and we would just ask that if we could just, pass these very quickly, that we really don't need them.
Serious question.
I personally, that's not what's intended for anything like that, so that's not my opinion.
Senator Womack? With that, are there any further questions? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate on this resolution, and it will be voted on tonight. That's debate for Senator Womack.
Howdy. Bill Flores won, Chet Edwards lost. Can we all be responsible adults and say thank you, Amanda, and serve our interests? I did vote for him. I think it's highly disrespectful to just kick a man when he lost an election. That's pretty sad. But beyond that, let's say thank you. Let's get behind our new congressman, Bill Flores. He does a great job. That being said, both these men are Aggies, both these men are great former students, and Chet Edwards deserves our thanks, and Bill Flores deserves our support.
Madam Speaker, I move to postpone this bill to the next Senate meeting.
There's a motion on the floor to postpone this resolution to the next Senate meeting, and there's a second. All those in favor of postponing this?
It's a debatable motion.
It's a debatable motion, also need 8 minutes. With that, speaking for Senator
I'll
Pulliam.
just keep it short, Ax. We haven't even read this. We don't have these on our computer. I mean, this is like crushing a bill through in the last 5 minutes of a Senate meeting. Let's just wait. I mean, if we need to thank them, we can thank them in 2 weeks, and we'll actually know what we're thanking them for.
To debate against, Chair Gaberson.
Howdy. Howdy. All right, guys. I mean, everybody can see it. It's one page. It's pretty clear. Like everybody said, let's be respectful. Let's just make this happen. It's not anything hidden, and I yield to Senator Davenport.
Okay, quickly so everybody knows what's in this bill, here we go. Whereas Congressman Chet Edwards, class of 1974, is a graduate of Texas A&M University, and Congressman Edwards has been a great friend to Texas A&M University throughout his lifetime and his time in Congress, having been honored with the Oral Rudder Award, and whereas 3, Congressman Edwards has served in the United States House of Representatives since 1991. Therefore, let it be resolved that Texas A&M University Student Senate congratulates Congressman Edwards on his lifetime of public service, and we thank Congressman Edwards for his lifetime of service to Texas A&M and wish him the very best in his future endeavors. Therefore, let it be enacted, or resolved 3, that a copy of this resolution be delivered to Congressman Chet Edwards and Ms. Lee Ann Edwards. Thanks.
Madam Speaker, I move to previous.
There's a motion on the floor to move to previous question and vote on this. Multiple seconds. All those in favor of moving to previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. That was not. Now we will vote on the motion to postpone. If you wish to postpone this bill to the next Senate meeting, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Nay. In the chair, the nays do have it. With that, we'll move back to debate for this resolution. To debate against, Senator Young. Are there any others wishing to debate against?
I call previous
Senator Lakeville. Senator Landry. Senator Landry.
I don't think that Aggies appreciate Chet Edwards. I mean, we don't.
Stay in order.
I know a lot that don't, so I can't vote for something that I didn't know was the answer.
I call previous question.
There's a motion on the floor to move to previous question. Multiple seconds. All those in favor of moving to previous question, please say aye. Stay in order. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Okay, the chair, the ayes do have it. All those who wish to pass this resolution, SB 63, I guess, 16, to thank you, Congressman Chet Edwards, 74 resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
State your point.
Why don't you move for a roll call vote?
We don't have time for that. We get kicked out. All opposed, please say nay. And pin the chair, the ayes do have it. This resolution passes.
Madam Speaker.
State your point.
Okay. Last one is congratulating Congressman Flores and extending our wishes to work with him in the future very closely. These aren't meant to be contentious bills. These are a thank you to both candidates. We'd like to extend that courtesy to them. The fact that we have 3 individuals who worked on one side and are congratulating the other, I think it speaks volumes. So, very quickly, this bill. Whereas Mr. Bill Flores, class of 1976, is a graduate of Texas A&M University. Whereas Mr. Flores has been a great friend to Texas A&M University throughout his lifetime, having served as chairman of the Association of Former Students and Distinguished Alumnus, supporting many programs that have benefited students at Texas A&M, and having served as an exemplary student leader during his time at Texas A&M. And Mr. Flores was elected to the United States House of Representatives on November 2nd, 2010. And therefore, let it be resolved. Texas A&M Student Senate congratulates Mr. Flores on his victory. We also thank Mr. Flores for his lifetime of service to Texas A&M and wish him the very best during his time as a congressman. And we look forward to the opportunity to work together toward the betterment of Texas A&M student body. And we need to change that to 2, please. Therefore, let it further be resolved that a copy of this resolution be delivered to Mr. Bill and Ms. Gina Flores.
With that, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll now move into a period of debate on this resolution.
Madam Speaker, I move to postpone this bill until the next Senate meeting.
There's no support to postpone this bill to the next Senate meeting. Is there a second? Seeing no seconds, that motion fails. With that, those wishing to debate for this resolution, Senator Davenport.
Okay, pass the bill.
Congressman-elect Flores is a proud former student
he will continue to bring everything he can to Texas A&M and to better everyone here in the student body. So I support this bill, obviously, and y'all should too.
Move previous question.
There's a motion on the floor to move to the previous question and vote. Was there any wishing to debate against? Seeing none, Chair deems debate on Senator Pulliam.
Those guys, I cannot believe we are sitting here actually rushing through bills like this. This is
They're
horrible.
resolutions.
Resolutions. This is horrible. We need to either decide we're going to stay here for 30 minutes and do this properly, or we just need to go ahead and leave without doing this business. This is stupid to rush things through.
I move the previous question.
There's a motion on the floor to move to the previous question, multiple seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Those in favor of passing this resolution SR 6317, the congratulations of Congressman-elect Bill Flores, 76 resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
From the chair, the ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. I'd like to call SR whatever to the floor, the one I sent you, because it won't be relevant after the Senate meeting. So
Okay.
it will be irrelevant.
We have to call roll too at the end of this.
Please hurry, we have 3 minutes. And this is why everyone should go talk to student activities and say how we need to have extended hours. Stay in order.
Okay, guys. Every year, they have a vigil for the people who passed away in the bonfire. Many people come to me a lot, and we've talked about it the last year. They're not able to make it because professors post tests on that day, and they would rather study instead of going to this. And this is just politely asking professors to have leniency.
With that, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll now move into a period of debate. Senator Wilson?
Called the previous question.
No, are there any wishing to debate against? Seeing none, chair deems debate one-sided. We will move into a period of voting. Those wishing to pass SR 6318, the bonfire candlelight remembrance visual resolution, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
In the chair, the ayes who have it. With that, we will move into committee reports.
We're working on the bylaws, the rules, and regulations. If anyone likes bylaws like we do, come to our meeting next Wednesday and help us out. We really appreciate it. Thanks, and Giga.
Connie, we've got the code
Stay in order.
in our committee, so come and give your input there. Thanks, and Giga. Read my committee report.
Read my committee report. Meeting this Sunday, 6 p.m. Room over there.
With that, we'll move into executive reports. SVP Robinson.
Howdy. Howdy. Fast. So we sent out some campus-wide emails, had great success on that. Still getting some stuff back for next week about the fees. Other than that, I just went, textbooks. We've had meetings with Pam, Dr. Pam Matthews, and Chad Wooten from the Provost's office. We got some exciting things that they're going to be unveiling later this week about textbooks in January, starting in January, next semester. So keep your eye on that. Other than that, for the sake of time, do you have any questions?
Seeing none.
Giga.
Chief Justice Giga.
No report from the court.
Y'all, good meeting tonight. Thank you for everyone paying attention. This was a pretty heated meeting, but with that, we really need to be more organized. If you really need an open session bill, please try to get it in by Friday so it can be presented as new legislation and everyone can have it out so we don't have to rush through stuff. And with that, if y'all don't want meetings to go past 10:30, then we need to look at what kind of bills we're discussing and the debate surrounding those bills. There are also currently in the bylaws, there's no, ending time on open forum. Open forum could go on for 3 hours right now. So just so people are aware, we have no control over that. And someone could make a bylaw to change that, but with that, I guess the only thing I can say is if y'all want longer meetings, okay, great, I'm done.
Okay, I've started taking them all on my own. I got halfway through the page, so if you don't hear your name, I'll just read off caucuses, and I've got everyone.
You can do it tonight. You can do it.
I've got everyone. Architecture, I've got everyone. Business, I've got everyone. Coles, I've got everyone. Core, Latham, and Beatty, are y'all here?
Yeah. I got the uniform.
Okay, education, engineering. Is Rachel Sullivan here?
No, she's not there.
Okay.
Stay in order.
General studies, geosciences. Is everyone here? Okay.
Does that mean he already has me?
Liberal arts.
Please stay in order.
Fits. Okay. Wilson Harris. Marisa.
Howdy.
Colburn McDonald. Colburn's not here. Womack. Sullivan.
Stay in order.
Sullivan.
Howdy.
Scoggins. Howdy. Grossgauer. Free Weezy. Hilton. Nidegger. Rogers. Johnson. Howdy. Ward.
Howdy.
Rooney. Rooney. Kula. Landis.
Here.
Nietzsche.
Hey, it's howdy.
Prepley.
Howdy.
Marsh.
Howdy.
Crow.
They got wolf.
Jody. Riley. Howdy. Lang. Howdy. Lawson. Lawson. Bender. Murray. Riker. Farmer. Elkin. Oakland. Kirk. Hodges. Cox. Chaudhry.
Please stay in order.
That's roll.